When you stop trying to impress, the real art form becomes very honest. And I'm an actor. I try to find my characteristics of being honest. So I think this look today also kind of resembles that.
You know them as some of Korea's biggest stars, but wait until you hear them speak English. Some have lived overseas, some learned through work, and one actor became remarkably fluent despite being almost completely self-taught. Here are 40 K-drama actors whose English is way better than you expected, with proof. Number 40, Eugene.
I think you're looking great. And I hope you have a strong heart.
Don't worry, I'm strong.
건강한 거 가지고 안 될 것 같은데. Nothing. Let's go in.
To most fans, Eugene is pure nostalgia. One-third of SES, one of the groups that helped invent the whole idea of a K-pop girl group, who later reinvented herself as a warm, reliable face in family dramas. But here's the piece that slips right past everyone. Long before any of that, she spent about 4 years of her childhood living on Guam, a small American island out in the Pacific, where the schools run in English and the days sound nothing like Seoul. That early head start never left her.
He wants to know that you are really Logan-lee. Prove yourself?
Prove myself.
Please.
So when an interviewer suddenly switches languages or an overseas event needs a few words in English, she doesn't freeze, and she doesn't reach for a translator. She just answers, soft and natural, like she's done it her whole life, because in a way, she has. Number 39, Kang So-ra.
I'm still nervous, but I think people are very kind in Indonesia, and I want to visit again.
Kang So-ra built her English the slow, stubborn way. No childhood overseas, no expensive language academy, no secret semester abroad hiding in her bio. She did it at home, on her own, glued to American shows until the rhythm and the slang started to feel like hers. It's the kind of fluency you can't really fake, because it only comes from genuinely loving the language. And the payoff is obvious the moment you put her in front of an international crowd.
And compared to the latest material, Tempera is more outstanding in terms of both density and elasticity, but also easy to repair.
She keeps up, she jokes back, she handles the curveball questions without blinking. For someone who never left the country to learn it, that's seriously impressive. Self-made from the very first word. Number 38, Kim Ji-won.
Sarah is opening her store in our mall, right above her keenness.
Think about how the world knows Kim Ji-won now. The heartbreak of Descendants of the Sun, the global phenomenon of Queen of Tears. Soft, elegant, devastating. So it catches people completely off guard to learn she was quietly delivering crisp, confident English lines all the way back in the airs, years before any of that fame arrived.
Take back the luggage again and change the flight for tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
I don't think he's gonna see me day after tomorrow.
And no, she didn't grow up abroad to get there. She picked it up herself, piece by piece. You'll catch it surface again at her global fashion events, where she fields questions from foreign press and answers smoothly. No script, no panic. The fluency was always there. Most of us just weren't looking. Number 37, Lee Ji-ah.
I want you to know that you can't do anything with this land without Hain's permission. I gotta go. She's not feeling well.
On screen, Lee Ji-ah is all mystery. Cool, elegant, a little untouchable, the kind of presence that made the penthouse impossible to look away from. Off-screen, the story behind her English is refreshingly simple. She actually went through both middle school and high school in the United States.
Today I'm so excited to share that all episodes of the View original Queen of Divorce are now available on View.
So this isn't a few months of cramming or a clever party trick. English is woven into a real chunk of her growing up years. The classrooms, the friendships, the everyday life. That's why, when she switches into it, there's no strain at all. It's just another room in a house she's lived in for a very long time. Number 36, Jung Ryeo-won.
Sometimes when you have base makeup, you can't put much sunscreen on your face, but with this, you can put as much as you want, and your base makeup will not smudge. so I use this all the time.
Long before she was a leading lady in Korea, Jung Ryeo-won's family packed up and moved to Brisbane, Australia. And she didn't just pass through. She studied all the way up through Griffith University, soaking in the language the way only years of real immersion can give you. And there's one moment fans still point to. In My Name is Kim Sam-soon, she shares an English scene opposite Daniel Henney. And where a lot of actors would tense up, she's completely loose, completely natural.
I don't know, I get moody these days. Maybe because of the rain. Why do you think that people get emotional when it rains?
That wasn't a performer carefully reciting lines she'd memorized the night before. That was just her, talking the way she'd talked for years. Number 35, Rain.
First of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here. It's my honor. Second of all, thanks to Asia Society and UTA. Susan, Amanda, thank you so much.
When Hollywood came knocking with the lead in Ninja Assassin, Rain had just one problem. He barely spoke English. Most stars would have quietly passed. He doubled down. He taught himself the hardest, loneliest way you can imagine. Sitting by himself in coffee shops, asking himself questions out loud, and then answering them over and over, building the muscle from nothing. He even leaned on the wife of a fellow actor, a professional interpreter, to sharpen it. And it worked.
You know, the Ninja Assassin is, Wachowski is producing, James McTeague directing, stunting from the 300, and Matrix, it is kick-ass movie, People like this.
By the time the cameras rolled, he was carrying an entire American action film on his back and charming his way through Western talk shows on top of it. Pure brute force determination. Number 34, IU.
Please seduce that woman. She's my English teacher. If you succeed, I'll go on with you.
IU is the record breaker, the nation's little sister, one of the most beloved artists Korea has ever produced. And quietly, a completely self-taught English speaker. She never lived overseas, there was no immersion year, no international school. She simply studied it herself, fitting it in around one of the busiest careers in the entire industry. And it shows up in the sweetest way at her international fan meetings, where she switches into English to talk directly to fans who flew across the world to see her, with no translator standing in between.
I really love to write since when I was young, as much as I love to sing. And even now, as IU, one of the favorite things to do is writing lyrics.
For someone who taught herself in stolen moments, that connection means everything. Number 33, Park Gyu-young.
Firstly, I was really happy to portray my the perspective and the point of view of the pink guards, because my character was I thought that my character was one of the players, but I noticed that my character is a pink guard. So
Park Gyu-young had already been building a quiet, impressive run. Sweet Home, Celebrity, Dolly, and The Cocky Prince. Then Squid Game put her in front of the entire planet at once. And when the global press tour arrived, fans got a surprise that had nothing to do with the show.
It was such a popular series in the whole world, so but I just had to focus on the character and focus on the stories, and the story goes on, and I could portray my character.
At the events, the interviews, the junkets, she answered in full, relaxed, easy English. No notes, no nerves. A lot of viewers did a genuine double take because nothing in her Korean roles had hinted at it. But that's the thing about a hidden skill. It only looks sudden from the outside. She'd been ready the whole time. Number 32, Choi Siwon.
So I would like to say you're not alone. Don't think about bad things. Always think about the positive, no negative.
Choi Siwon of Super Junior collects more than fans. Spend years selling out arenas across Asia and beyond. And you start collecting languages too. So, along the way, he picked up fluent Mandarin and right beside it, genuinely comfortable English. And he actually uses it. Hand him an international mic at a press event or a global brand function, and he doesn't shrink behind a translator.
So I would like to start by sharing my vision. It's a vision of a region where every child grows up healthy, well nourished, and safe from disease.
He runs the room, lands the joke, keeps the whole energy up. For an idol who learned on the road, squeezed in between schedules and time zones, that kind of ease is the reward for a whole lot of work the public never got to see. Number 31. Park Eun-seok.
Listen, I met with Mr. Ju because you desperately asked me for a favor. That didn't mean that I was going to sign the contract right away. A contract is made in between two people, so wouldn't it be nice to know what kind of people I'm dealing with?
Park Eun-seok moved to New York as a kid and spent around 15 years on Long Island, long enough that he even goes by the English name Danny. So when his penthouse character, the slick Logan Lee, slipped into English, it wasn't a stretch at all. That was just home, on screen.
Of course. I heard it directly from Mr. Ju himself. But do be careful about it because the official announcement hasn't been made yet.
But here's the detail that makes his story stick. When he came back to chase acting in Korea, he gave up his American permanent residency to serve in the Korean military, partly so he could fully reclaim the Korean language he'd left behind as a boy. 2 languages, 2 homes, and a real choice about which dream was worth chasing. Number 30. Krystal Jung.
So yeah, I hope you enjoy our film and enjoy every second of it. And if you liked it, you can tell your friends and family and you can watch it again. And yeah, you can do whatever you want. Thank you.
Krystal carries a twist most people somehow miss. She wasn't just raised around English. She was actually born in San Francisco. For her, English literally came first. Korean is the language she leaned into later, after the family returned, and she stepped into the spotlight with FX. That's the secret behind the easy, unbothered American accent you hear every single time she does an interview in English.
This actually smells like alcohol. Oh, is it right? Wait, is this something you can drink? Really? Wine! Got you.
There's no performance to it, no careful gear change. It's simply her first language, quietly waiting underneath all those polished Korean roles. Once you know it, you can't unhear it. Number 29. Kang Dong-won.
Nice to meet you. I'm Dong-won, Kang, and thank you for having me. And yeah, I'm so excited to be here. Yeah, I want to have a very good time.
Kang Dong-won has those striking looks, that quiet, art house cool, and a fluent command of English that almost nobody saw coming. He's long been one of Korea's most magnetic, mysterious leading men, picking strange, beautiful projects and rarely chasing the spotlight. Yet his ambitions always reached well past Korea. He signed with one of Hollywood's biggest agencies, and he was actually cast in an American disaster film, lined up to be his true Hollywood debut. To be ready for it, he lived abroad for about a year and 4 months, training hard in English and in English language acting. And then, it slipped away. The pandemic stalled the production, and the film he'd prepared so long for simply never happened. But the English, that stayed with him.
Yes, I already remembering all the lines because I prepared with my pronunciation coach.
He walked away from a lost project speaking the language better than ever. And he's never once called it a regret. The debut never came, but the fluency he built for it is his for good. Number 28. Ahn Hyo-seop.
Prizes where all the illegal actions are taken under the name of legal and righteousness, and after all, isn't profit preceding everything else in evaluating the fund?
Ahn Hyo-seop has Korean so polished, so completely natural, that fans forget the most basic fact about her. English is actually her first language. She was born and raised in Los Angeles, even goes by the name Leslie, and finished her schooling in the States before ever moving to Korea to start modeling. So the order most people assume is flipped. English isn't her impressive second act. It's the foundation everything else was built on top of.
It's been really fun. We're shooting right now as well, but it's been so much fun because I don't really get to socialize with people.
That's why, the moment she switches into it, there's zero hesitation. She's not reaching for it. She's coming home to it. Number 27. Ryu Jun-yeol.
I'm super excited and honored to share this stage with so many incredible artists. Can't wait to see what kind of performances we get to enjoy this time around.
Put Ryu Jun-yeol in a Korean drama and you'd never guess. But drop him onto a variety trip across Africa and watch the whole dynamic shift. because he quietly becomes the group's translator and guide. On Youth Over Flowers, traveling through Namibia and Zimbabwe, he stepped up again and again, bargaining, asking directions, chatting with locals, all in easy, confident English while his castmates leaned on him.
Wi-Fi card, so I arrived any Wi-Fi John, so I can use the card.
And the best part? It's self-built. No childhood abroad to fall back on. Just a guy who quietly got good and only let the world see it when the cameras caught him out in the wild. Number 26, Kim Min-ha.
So the casting director called me to, do you want to participate in this audition? So I said, yeah, why not? And I didn't know it was Pachinko.
Kim Min-ha was the breakout face of Pachinko, carrying one of the most acclaimed series in recent memory on her shoulders before most people even knew her name. And there's a reason the English in those moments feels so unforced. Before the fame, she lived in Palm Springs, California, around the age of 10, an early stretch in the States that quietly planted the language deep.
My grandmother is 94 years old right now, so she actually lived in that era. Every time I had a conversation with her, I got to know Sonja more.
So when Pachinko exploded and the press tour went fully global, red carpets, English interviews, international stages, she didn't flinch. She met all of it head-on, in fluent English, like she'd been preparing for that exact moment her whole life. Number 25, Lee Soo-jin.
Hello, this is our new menu. I'd like to offer you to try.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah?
That's
Yeah,
good.
because you come here a second time, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so I'd like to give you
To Korean audiences, Lee Soo-jin is the dry, funny, slightly grumpy heart of half the country's biggest variety shows. What those shows quietly reveal, week after week, is a serious secret on paper, a business degree from New York University. Watch him run the counter on his cafe and restaurant programs, and the moment a foreign customer walks in, the switch is instant.
How is the kimchi?
It's fine.
Yeah? Okay. I'm so sorry for keep you waiting. This is on the house.
Oh,
Okay?
thank you very much. That's so much.
He takes the order, makes the small talk, handles the whole exchange in smooth English without breaking stride. For all his trademark reluctance about everything else, the language has never once given him trouble. It might be the most effortless thing he does. Number 24, Park Min-yeong.
What would you like to eat?
Normally, I like to eat Korean food. Yeah. I'm very Korean.
Park Min-yeong even carries an English name, Rachel. Behind the rom-com queen of What's Wrong with Secretary Kim and Marry My Husband is a high school exchange in the United States that quietly laid her English foundation. And it surfaces in the loveliest, most natural way. A few easy lines slipped into a drama, a relaxed answer in an international interview, a moment where the language just appears without any fuss.
Singapore is it's kind of like a TMI, but my sister lives in Singapore.
Sister lives
yes.
here. Oh,
wow! It feels like
is your sister here today?
No, she's
okay.
working now.
It's never showy. It's never the headline. It's simply there, polished and warm, woven into the work so smoothly that a lot of fans never even clock how good it actually is. Number 23, Jeon Jong-seo.
This is Jung-sajan. You can call me Rachel. Thanks for having me here. I was looking forward to this chat. Hope you guys enjoy it with me.
From her very first film, Jeon Jong-seo felt different. Fearless, a little dangerous, impossible to predict. Part of the reason is a childhood spent partly in Africa, while her family lived overseas, years that left her completely at home in English. And she didn't keep that quiet. She crossed over and carried an entire English language film on her shoulders, the A24 movie Mona Lisa and The Blood Moon leading role, every scene in English, no safety net underneath her.
She's like a newborn baby with special abilities. She sees what other people can't see, and she feels what other people can feel.
For a young actor to step out of the Korean industry and anchor a Western feature like that takes real nerve. She has never once seemed short on it. Number 22, Lee Joon-gi.
My heart goes out to all of you, so who always show me endless support from various places around the world. So none of this would be possible without you guys. Thank you so much, and I love you all. Thank you.
Lee Joon-gi, the flower boy who became a full-blown action star, the man who does half his own stunts, taught himself enough English to walk straight onto a Hollywood set. He took a role in Resident Evil, the final chapter, sharing the screen with an international cast in a global franchise. And if you go back and listen to his interviews from that era, you can practically hear the hours behind it.
Excited, super excited to be here. Mila, such a pro. So many patience. She is so patient. She is so passionate.
The careful effort, the pride, the determination of someone who refused to let language be the thing that held him back. For him, English was just one more skill to train until he'd mastered it. Number 21, Cha Eun-woo.
I'll do my best. Hello, I'm Cha Eun-woo. I'm Korean actor, singer, and I'm a big fan of K-pop Demon Hunters.
Cha Eun-woo is famous for a face the internet literally calls a work of art, and quietly, for a surprisingly solid grip on English. Here's the part that catches everyone off guard. A real chunk of it started in the Philippines, where he spent about 6 months studying English around the age of 11. He polished it for years after that on world tours and global brand stages, from Dior in Paris onward.
Oh, I feel really nice, and I missed my Philippine fans, and good to see you again.
Thank you.
And his Manila fan meetings are where it truly shines. Long stretches where he drops the translator entirely and just talks to the crowd, warm and direct, in English. The fans there absolutely adore him for it. Number 20, Song Joong-ki.
For God's sake, piss off. Don't you dare come near me, or else you're gonna have to pay the price.
Song Joong-ki is the face of Descendants of the Sun, the cold fury of Vincenzo, the reinvention of Reborn Rich, a megastar by any measure. And the English, no childhood abroad behind it, just quiet, patient self-study, layered in year after year between projects, the way only a genuinely disciplined person keeps at something. The result shows on the world stage, where he now handles full English interviews and international press tours with a calm, easy confidence, fielding questions, telling stories, carrying himself like the global leading man he's become.
I heard many Asian audience love Korean romantic comedy drama, but this is not that, so I never expected it.
It's not flashy fluency, it's something better, steady, earned, and completely his own. Number 19, Jun Ji-hyun.
To the future, when we look back and think about what we have done, I sincerely hope that we will be able to say that we did the right thing.
Jun Ji-hyun is known to international audiences as Gianna. We remember her as the alien charmer of My Love from the Star and the elegance of Legend of the Blue Sea. But long before those, she headlined an entire English language film, Blood, the Last Vampire, fighting her way through the lead role in English, years ahead of the K-wave going truly global.
Hello, Paris Cherry. Hi, nice to meet you. This is Jeon Jong. Yeah, the show was very good and very new and creative. I love the show.
Pair that with the era when she was the face of Burberry, fronting a heritage British brand on the world stage, and a clear picture emerges. The English has quietly been part of her story for a very long time. We just always think of her as a Korean icon first. Number 18, Choi Sooyoung.
This is surprisingly way more than a tour of our new resort. Track and field off-season training has never been so exciting, right? Right.
Out of one of the most legendary groups in K-pop history, Sooyoung of Girls' Generation has carved out a real, respected acting career. And tucked inside it is an easy, conversational command of English. There's no flicker of hesitation when she switches over. You'll catch it in her international interviews and around her recent move into bigger global film work.
When I first read the script, I was instantly drawn to the story.
For an idol who spent her whole life mastering one demanding craft after another, the language is just one more thing she makes look natural. A true all-rounder, in every sense of the word. Number 17, Park Bo-gum.
Yeah, it's my very first time to MC in here, so I'm so happy to be here. And as you know, this is Dolby Theater, so I'm so excited.
Park Bo-gum is everyone's gentleman, the impossibly polite, impossibly warm star of Reply 1988 and Encounter. And he did something that still leaves fans in awe. At a Manila fan meeting, he held the room for about 2.5 hours, almost entirely in English. No childhood abroad gave him that. It was pure discipline.
So I'm super happy to meet you all, and I can't believe it. I'm here with you because 6 years ago.
6 years ago, yes.
Could you please hands up at the time? I wasn't there.
The same quiet diligence he's famous for turned toward a language until he could carry an entire show in it, even singing and dancing his way through the night. When the most courteous man in the industry puts that much care into talking to fans in their own language, it is genuinely impossible not to be charmed. Number 16. Ahn Hyo-seop.
Yeah, the owner is on vacation, so we work here for 10 days. After that, it will come back originally, so don't worry at all.
For her American series Treadstone, part of the sprawling Bourne universe, Ahn Hyo-seop didn't coast on a translator or a dialect coach standing just off camera. She trained hard, worked with a coach, and delivered her English lines herself, right there on screen, in a high-stakes international production. And once you know that, you start to hear it everywhere.
Stunt training, that's my favorite. I'm so excited. I'm a big fan of Bourne series.
The care in her interviews, the comfort in her overseas appearances, the quiet confidence of someone who put in the reps. She doesn't make a show of her English. She just quietly proved she could carry it when the stakes were at their highest. Number 15. Gong Yoo.
Are you busy?
I'm in my office now, working.
Okay.
Gong Yoo never studied abroad, not one semester. And yet his English pronunciation is so crisp that a single tiny moment in Goblin, just 2 ordinary English words, turned into a piece of fandom legend that fans still replay and swoon over to this day. That's the sheer power of pure self-study. Every English interview since has only added to it, right up through his chilling recruiter in Squid Game.
Don't take time. Let it take you across the sky, into the horizon, down to the sea. But wherever you land, on the other side of today, tomorrow is already underway.
For someone who built it entirely at home, with no immersion and no shortcut, the Polish almost feels unfair. He makes self-taught fluency sound like he was simply born to it. Number 14. Taecyeon.
Me too. I mean, it's very different because I grew up in America, but I never had the whole Asian and Asian Pacific Islander kind of thing, like gathering up and, you know, kind of connecting with each other. So I never had this kind of experience before.
Taecyeon of 2PM moved to Massachusetts around the age of 10 and stayed all the way through high school, which is exactly why that American accent is the genuine article, not a studied imitation. He's so trusted with the language that his own agency has reportedly leaned on him to double-check English lyrics for grammar.
I mean, first of all, the previous TV series that I did, it was called Blind. It was on TVN last year, and it was about me being a detective trying to find a serial killer, and it was very dark, it was very heavy.
And he's put it on full display in his acting, most memorably as the smooth, English-speaking villain in Vincenzo, stealing every scene he switched languages in. For him, English isn't a hidden talent he occasionally dusts off. It's a core part of who he is, right out in the open. Number 13. Choi Min-yeong.
Everyone. Guys, Kitty and I are finally together. I'm not gonna let her fail out of this school now.
Choi Min-yeong is the real head-scratcher of them all. He spent only about a year in Canada as a child. 1 year. And yet he carries an American-raised character across all of XO, kitty and clean, completely accent-free English. So natural that plenty of viewers simply assumed he'd grown up in the States.
That was really convenient, and it just felt comfortable, you know?
True.
Like, it was way more, less nerves, and comfy.
You'll also know him from the brutal, brilliant Weak Hero class. And he's already picked up a Best New Actor nomination for his film work, so the talent runs deep. But that English is the part that stops people cold. 1 single year abroad as a kid, and somehow it sounds like an entire lifetime. Number 12. Si-wan.
This question is gonna be difficult to answer without giving away. But if I have to say, the game of Squid Game season 3 is gonna way harder than Squid Game season 2.
Im Si-wan started as an idol, then quietly became one of the most respected actors of his generation, the haunting lead of Misaeng, the unsettling menace of Strangers from Hell. And he taught himself English with the exact same intensity he brings to every role he disappears into.
If I choose only one game that I can survive if I play in real life, then I would choose, my pick is 제기차기. Only.
He's been openly honest about wanting a real shot at Hollywood one day, and when you hear him handle an interview in English, you start to believe he'll actually get there. Because the same obsessive focus that makes his performances so sharp is pointed straight at the language too. With him, nothing is ever half done. Number 11, Noh Sang-hyun.
Through Pachinko, you can learn about, there's a lot of historical features, a lot of cultural and just social aspects to it too. I think a lot of people can be introduced to a newer side of Korea.
Noh Sang-hyun goes by Steve to his international fans. He studied in Boston at Babson College, and the moment you hear him speak, it shows. In Pachinko, he does something genuinely rare. He glides between English, Korean, and Japanese inside the same role, and his English is so natural it simply melts into the character with no seam at all. That same ease earned him a Best New Actor win for Love in the Big City. Most recently, he carried that same presence into one of the year's biggest K-dramas, starring opposite IU in the Disney Plus hit Perfect Crown.
So you were born and raised in
Denmark.
You're Danish, right? You're all Danish?
Yeah, we're all Danish.
Oh, cool. It's so beautiful here.
For a lot of bilingual actors, English is a careful gear you shift into. For him, it's just one of several languages he wears like they've always been his. Effortless. Number 10. Sun Suk-ku.
Once I'm in that ring, you're not gonna see some gentlemen sweep by me. I'll have every single one of them bleed their bodies dry and get tossed out on the stretchers. You got that?
Sun Suk-ku has that deep voice and unshakable cool that didn't come from nowhere. He studied at an art school in Chicago, and that American stretch is exactly where the fluency was forged. Long before My Liberation Notes and DP made him a household name, he turned up in the Netflix series Sense8, speaking English on an international production like he'd never left the States. It's the kind of background that quietly explains the whole vibe.
Harboring fugitives, miss a show? That's a serious crime. I don't want to have to put you back in prison.
The effortless confidence, the unbothered delivery. He doesn't perform his English, he just opens his mouth, and there it is. Number 9. Moon Ga-young.
Hi guys, it's so nice to see you and thank you for tuning in.
Most fans know Moon Ga-young as the radiant lead of True Beauty, but her story starts somewhere unexpected. She was born in Germany and raised partly across Europe, which makes her quietly, genuinely trilingual. Korean, German, and English, all on call. So the English you catch in her interviews isn't a skill she crammed for a single role. It's simply one of 3 languages she's carried since childhood, sitting right alongside the others.
Hello, Singapore. This is Taecyeon. I'm currently in Stockholm for the Max Mara Cruise Tour 2024.
There's a particular kind of ease that only comes from growing up between cultures, and she has it in spades. 3 languages. 1 effortless smile. Number 8. Ahn Hyo-seop.
When you stop trying to impress, the real art form becomes very honest. And I'm an actor. I try to find my characteristics of being honest. So I think this look today also kind of resembles that.
Ahn Hyo-seop went by Paul growing up in Toronto. His family immigrated to Canada, and he spent about a decade there, which makes his English essentially native. That's why his romantic leads in Business Proposal and Dr. Romantic always carried a slightly global polish. And by his own account, it was the English he showed in Business Proposal that won him the role of Ji-nu in K-pop Demon Hunters.
Jeez, okay, calm down. I thought the mannequin was gonna be a fun icebreaker, but I see I was wrong. Whoa, hey.
The Netflix juggernaut that went on to win Best Animated Feature at the Academy Awards, he was invited to the Oscars ceremony himself, walking that stage and gliding through international interviews like someone simply built for Hollywood, relaxed, quick, completely at home.
Okay, that's that's a curveball. Because they're adorable. They're just you can't hate them, you know.
At this point, the talent is obvious and the English is ready. All that's missing is the live-action project to call his own. And when it lands, he already looks more than prepared to take it. Number 7, Shin Se-kyung.
Just because they can speak English doesn't mean you can say whatever you want. And anyway, aren't you the one who forced us to keep shooting without the actor's approval?
Shin Se-kyung is the one that genuinely breaks people's brains. She never lived abroad. Not for a year, not for a semester, not at all. Every single bit of that smooth, confident English is self-taught, built entirely at home, by sheer will and curiosity. And she doesn't hide it. She shows it off happily on her travel show, wandering foreign cities and chatting with locals like it's the most natural thing in the world.
My recommendation is egg roll with some shrimp and some veggies. Is it okay? Is it okay?
For someone with zero immersion to lean on, that level of comfort is almost suspicious, but it's completely real. She's living proof that you don't need a plane ticket to get fluent, just relentless heart. Number 6, Teo Yoo.
I'm just glad that it tells this universal story bridging gaps over cultures and ages.
Teo Yoo has a background that reads like a map of the world. Born in Germany, in Cologne, then trained as a serious actor in New York and London, at Lee Strasberg and RADA, which means his English isn't just fluent, it's flat-out native, polished by years of professional craft. And the whole world finally heard it in Past Lives, the aching, beautiful film that earned him a BAFTA nomination and put him on every awards season stage.
I really feel out of place. I don't really know what I'm doing here. Even though I am an actor, I still get terrified at public speaking events.
Watching him there, gliding through interviews and red carpets, you realize he was never going to be boxed into one country. He's a truly global talent, and Past Lives just made it official. Number 5, Choi Woo-shik.
Hi, I'm Choi Woo-shik, and I play Lee-tang, an ordinary college student who accidentally becomes a serial killer on Killer Paradox.
Choi Woo-shik goes by Edward to his English-speaking friends. His family moved to Vancouver when he was young, so the English simply flows without a thought. So much so that he's joked he used to think in English first, and only later started translating from Korean in his head.
So right now I'm just free falling. Okay.
Let's go.
Alright. So have you guys tried any Korean drinks before? Tried Seo-jin?
Yes.
You can watch that ease in action on Yoon's Stay and all across the Parasite and Mickey 17 press tours, where he charmed every single room he walked into for 2 of Bong Joon-ho's biggest films. Funny, humble, completely at home in both languages. He's the kind of star who makes a global career look like the most natural thing in the world. Number 4, Bae Doona.
Hello, Vogue! Welcome to Seoul. I'm getting ready for Louis Vuitton event tonight, so follow me.
Bae Doona stands apart from almost everyone else here. She didn't grow up with English. She learned it as an adult, from scratch, purely to chase Hollywood on her own terms. Then she went out and actually did it. Cloud Atlas, Sense8, Jupiter Ascending, working directly with the Wachowskis on some of the most ambitious international projects of their time. Think about the nerve that takes a fully established Korean star, deciding in adulthood to rebuild herself in a second language and compete on a global stage.
It was tough. I memorized whole lines, I've never spoken any Spanish before, so...
It's not just fluency, it's sheer, stubborn determination. And it's exactly why directors around the world keep calling her back. Number 3, Lee Byung-hun.
As you just said, I've been acting for like more than 30 years, and I also participated in some Hollywood blockbuster project.
Lee Byung-hun never spent years abroad. No childhood immersion. And yet he has stood toe-to-toe with Hollywood's biggest names in English, as the silent, deadly storm shadow in G.I. Joe, across the Magnificent Seven, and now as the chilling frontman the whole world knows from Squid Game. Oh, and one more thing, he's fluent in French too, with a university background in the language. Let that sink in.
I just flew from LA, and I couldn't have time to stop by the hotel. And
you came straight?
Yeah. And I just brushed my teeth here.
A self-taught command of English strong enough to anchor blockbusters, plus a second European language on the side. The man is practically a one-person language academy, and he wears every bit of it with that signature, unshakable calm. Number 2. Ma Dong-seok.
People become vicious when they're greedy, you know? Especially these guys, I just cannot fucking forgive them.
Ma Dong-seok is known to Marvel fans worldwide as Don Lee. Here's the foundation behind that booming, easy American English. He grew up in Ohio. The states raised him, which is why his English isn't studied or careful at all. It's the real, casual, native thing, complete with a personality that fills the whole room. He brought every bit of it to the Eternals, stepping into the Marvel universe like he'd belonged there from day one, and to every international press tour since, where he flips between Korean and English like he's flipping a switch.
I'm a big fan. I'm a huge fan of Marvel, and then I've done around 80 films back in Korea, and then I feel like I'm gonna do 80 more.
Gentle giant, fan favorite, action legend, and completely effortlessly bilingual. He never had to fake a single thing. Number 1. Lee Jung-jae.
Connect to the force. Have faith. Think of diving into a great ocean. Give yourselves over to its weight.
And finally, Lee Jung-jae, the man behind the most watched moment in streaming history with Squid Game. But here's what makes him the perfect finish. He didn't grow up speaking English. He earned it the hard way, when the stakes could not possibly have been higher. To direct and star in a Star Wars series, The Acolyte as a Jedi Master leading scenes in English, he drilled with dialogue coaches for months on end. Line by line, sound by sound, until he could carry entire sequences in a language he'd built almost from the ground up.
And thank you to Director Hwang for making realistic problem we all face come to life.
From the biggest show on the planet, straight into a galaxy far, far away. That is what pure dedication looks like, and it's the perfect place to leave it. And that wraps up our list. So, which actor surprised you the most with their English? Who sounds the most natural and whose accent impressed you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't miss our countdown of K-drama couples who are still going strong. Just click the video on your screen. You might be surprised by who's still happily together.